Alrighty. As I said before, thanks everyone. This is the July edition of the You Already Own It Cloud Office Hours webcast. This month's topic is Azure Sentinel, one of the most exciting and powerful new capabilities to come to the Microsoft Cloud platform in quite some time. I'm very excited to be able to bring news to you about this. So, Scott, if you could go ahead and advance the slide for me, please. Thanks. Just real quick, the agenda, we're going to cover Azure Sentinel, do some housekeeping things, and then we'll open up to questions. Feel free as well to type questions in along the way. You can go ahead and hop through one more slide there, Scott. Your You Already Own It team, myself, Bob Ballard, I'm the principal cloud strategist here at Planet, along with Jerry Martin, Aaron Ward, George Scott, Scott Dowling. That makes up the cloud strategist team here. We're excited to have Scott be the primary presenter on this subject this month, as well as Mary Tucker, who keeps us all in line and makes sure we hold up all our promises. And of course, the guidance and vision from our Vice President, Steve Winter, that allows us to perform. Don't forget that anytime you guys have questions, concerns, issues around your environment, technical topics, just need to run something by someone as a You Already Own It customer, you can send an email at youalreadyownit@go-planet.com, and someone from the Cloud Strategist team will respond to you. We try to get back within 24 hours, and certainly with at least that we're looking into your question. But between the five of us, we have about 70 years of prior Microsoft experience on the team, maybe even more than that. I've never actually added it all up, but it's a whole bunch, including some that even have as much as 24 years. So we're happy to reach out, get back with you and hopefully usher you along the way. So with that, Scott, why don't you go ahead and get us started?
Thanks, Bob. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you great.
Excellent. Good afternoon, everybody. Really excited, as Bob mentioned, to cover this topic, as recently there's been several high-profile solutions that have been released into preview inside of Microsoft Azure a couple months ago. I did one of these You Already Own It conversations around another exciting solution with Azure Virtual Desktop, which spawned into many discussions with some of our customers around that solution, and that it also is in preview. Azure Sentinel is in preview as well, so I think it's a really great time to have a conversation around this topic. As you might recall, when something is in preview within Microsoft Azure, it's free to use, so it's a really great time to do a pilot. It's pretty much feature parity with what they're going to probably release. There typically aren't that many changes other than additions to what goes to general availability. So I always think this is a really great time to have these discussions and try things out when we don't really have to pay for it. I'm going to try to keep this very high level for a couple different reasons. One, there's not a tremendous amount of information about Azure Sentinel out there from Microsoft. It's pretty high level, and I want to keep it high level and make sure that we're all on the same baseline, because this can be a pretty deep topic when you start getting into certain rabbit holes within the technology.
Real quick, Scott, I just wanted to add that Planet is participating on regular calls as a premier partner aligned on the Azure Sentinel topic with the product group. So as any information sort of unfolds here, we will have more and more and more and be completely entrenched in open dialogue with the product group.
Yeah, great point, Bob. Yeah, we probably have more information than pretty much anybody out there. So let's go ahead and start diving into Azure Sentinel and what it is and why Microsoft has released this into preview. And really, this is a cornerstone solution that I see moving forward within Microsoft Azure. And really, it's because today organizations are faced with an incredibly difficult task, right? The task of trying to protect their digital estate from the increasing amount of cyber threats that are out there. The move to the cloud and the mobile workforce has really pushed everybody's border of their estates beyond the boundary of their physical network. Your data, your users, your systems are essentially everywhere today. At the same time, the frequency and the complexity of the attacks are growing. Really, regardless of the size of your organization or the industry that you're in, you are a target We work with customers, as small as a few people within an IT, as well as statewide or enterprise-wide large organizations. And we see a lot of the same attacks going after all of them, especially within government. We certainly see a wide variety of attacks. We see them really daily, ranging from simple DOS and phishing or spear phishing attacks to ransomware, complex malware attacks. Not only are the frequency and the complexity increasing, but the techniques are constantly evolving. Security teams are basically under the strain of that expanding breadth of the amount of defensive solutions that are available today. And oftentimes what I see is a large number of solutions that are in use in a single organization, as well as the accelerating hybrid cloud adoption that we're seeing, the borderless and the zero trust networks. So I want to take a few moments to kind of highlight some of the prominent pain points that we see affecting the security teams today. As I mentioned before, the complexity and the volume are increasing. The attacks are heterogeneous. Typical attack spans different parts of the enterprise and crosses various resource types. It might start from an IoT device, proceed to an endpoint, spread to a cloud service or to a database, involve multiple user accounts or tenants. This really highlights the need to have a solution that can take in multiple data points, right? All the logs that are out there and kind of see the larger picture. And it's more important. So the number one pain point I see and I hear from some security teams at customers that I work with is the term alert fatigue, right? Typically, the organizations have dozens of security products, each producing a large volume of alerts. In isolation, these products often have a high false positive rate as well as poor response prioritizations. And we used to see it way back in the day with System Center, right? There was a lot of investment by customers for partners to come in and really tighten up and configure System Center and the amount of alerts that you see. Multiply that by 100 with all the different security solutions that are on site today with a lot of customers. And because of all of this alert noise, the attacks fall through the cracks despite generating the proper alerts. Unfortunately, legacy SIEMs act as aggregators, essentially, and don't increase response capabilities. The security team needs a way to integrate their security products to reduce that noise, prioritize those alerts, and enable investigations and hunting across the entire data set. Another pain point that we're seeing is really the shortage of security analysts. Recently saw a report by CSO Magazine that showed the shortage of security analysts will increase to 3.5 million unfulfilled security jobs by 2021. I find it ironic that, having been selling the cloud since it really started, where the fear was the level of security within the cloud, I actually think it's going to kind of flip on its nose, if you will, and it's going to be security that drives a lot of customers to the cloud, because there's that massive investment by those cloud providers within their security products, within their security teams, and within the headcount within those teams. So I find it kind of ironic. I think that what was seen as the weakness initially when cloud first started is actually going to probably be its strength. Another pain point is the fact that investigations are complex and time consuming. When it comes to an intrusion, every second counts. The clock's ticking fast. But investigations require highly skilled security analysts and can often take days or weeks or sometimes even months. Also, current solutions really aren't architected for today's demands or tomorrow's. The legacy on-premise SIEMs require powerful hardware, extensive maintenance that make them expensive to operate. Storage and compute needs increase dramatically during an incident, which is difficult for an on-premise footprint to accommodate. Move to the cloud brings with it its number one attribute, enterprise scale out.
And Scott, it's Bob. It may be, stealing your thunder later, but I thought it was just a great time to highlight, and going through some early trials with a few customers. We had a customer that tried to ship all their Office 365 logs to an on-premise SIEM. And they were weeks, if not months, behind in getting notifications for trend analysis. So in other words, they were so overwhelmed by the amount of logs that could be generated from Office 365 that it just couldn't even process them. right? And so that clearly is a driving force about how can, with all of this information that's coming in from all of these sources and places, you need something that can scale at cloud internet speed and not on-premise speed.
Bob, you absolutely stole my thunder. That was my next 2 points.
I'm sorry.
That probably, as Bob said, the biggest pain point. I'd say a large percentage of my customers are leveraging Splunk or IBM, and that's the excuse me one second. Sorry about that. There was something banging in the background. With the wind, I had to make sure that stopped. But yeah, the number one issue I'm seeing is with those IBM customers and with those Splunk customers starting to leverage Office 365, Azure, and AWS, and the massive amounts of logs that are coming in. And there's a cost to that with those products. So Bob's definitely spot on right there. So by leveraging cloud, right, you can help manage that the complexity of your expanding digital estate. It simplifies and makes security easy to manage, which will set your security team free of essentially having to not worry about the IT work and really help them focus on the security work itself. As we're going to soon discover by leveraging Azure Sentinel, next generation of AI and the automation, which we'll dive into a little bit, you will help to really supercharge the work that those folks are able to do, because we're going to leverage the large scale intelligence available in the cloud and make it work for you. So when Microsoft talks about Azure Sentinel, they're talking about reimagining the SIEM and SOAR tools to introduce this new cloud native solution. Now, I don't want to assume that everybody on this call or those that will listen to the recording in the future know what SIEM and SOAR are. So a brief intro, just to make sure that we're kind of all on that same baseline I mentioned before. So the SIEM, I imagine everyone is at least a little familiar with. SIEM solution examines log data for patterns that could indicate a cyber attack. So you're consuming all of your log data from, say, firewalls, network appliances, Office 365, et cetera, et cetera. SOAR stands for Security Orchestration, Automation, and Response, and is really designed to help the security teams manage and respond to the endless alarms at machine speeds. SOAR takes things a step further by combining comprehensive data gathering, case management, standardization, things like workflow and analytics to provide the organizations the ability to implement defensive capabilities. So Sentinel makes it easy to collect security data across your entire hybrid organization, from devices, users, apps, servers, any cloud, pretty much anything that has logs. Uses the power of the artificial intelligence that's already built within Microsoft Azure to ensure that you are identifying the real threats quickly, and releases you from the burden of traditional SIEMs by eliminating that need to spend time on setting up, maintaining, scaling the infrastructure, the sheer costs that are associated with increasing that scaling of the log files as you start to use things like Bob mentioned before, Office 365, Azure, AWS. And of course, by leveraging Azure, you're built on that limitless scale, essentially, which is really the value. With Azure Sentinel, there's no upfront costs, even when it's GA or in general availability. You're only going to pay for what you use, just like everything else within inside of Azure. But I think probably the biggest separator, right? Certainly, there's a lot of great things you can say about Sentinel, about leveraging AI and the automation built within Azure on top of it. But oftentimes, at the end of the day, for a lot of organizations, it comes down to cost. And a lot of organizations have already made significant investments in third-party products around this. So when those contracts start to come up for expiration, when you start to look at different alternatives out there, I think one of the biggest differentiators is that Microsoft's offering free Office 365 activity data imports, right? So that's the thing that Bob mentioned, the sheer amount of logs that are within Office 365 and all of the pieces within Microsoft 365 as a solution, and importing that massive amount of data. Those O365 data imports are free. And I think that's going to be a huge cost differentiator when we start taking a look at each of the solutions that you may be looking at and doing the cost calculator around what that's going to look like and how much it's going to cost your organization. It's important to understand that Azure Sentinel is available directly within the Azure portal, within the tenant, and it's essentially going to serve as that central place for your security operations. It's going to allow you and your team a near real-time view of security events and providing you the tools to investigate and respond to the incidents, which we're going to take a look at a little bit later. All right, so when you go to set up Sentinel, the first thing you're going to do is create the workspace within Azure Sentinel, and then you're going to want to start to integrate with the existing tools and data sources that you're using within your organization. Now, I'm going to hopefully be able to show a little bit of a demo, a pre-built demo with screenshots of the actual GUI of Azure Sentinel, and you'll kind of see what this looks like, and you'll see how clean it is and easy to use. So digging in a little bit more about the cloud scale and the AI. So you're going to be able to aggregate all of your security data with the building connectors, which we'll take a look at shortly. Native integration with Microsoft Signals. It's going to support the industry standard log formats, which we're going to take a little bit of a deep dive into. Microsoft continues to collaborate with all of their partners and support easy connectors and customizable dashboards from many of the popular third-party solutions, which are already in there today in the preview, to include things like Palo Alto Networks, F5, Symantec, Fortinet, but there are going to be a lot more coming. I imagine when they release in GA, there'll be a lot more available as well. But all of the main big ones, quote unquote, are in there in the preview today. Sentinel is based on Azure Monitor. That's basically has been proven, right, as a scalable log analytics database. Currently, Microsoft ingests more than 10 petabytes every day, and as well as it provides a fast query engine that can sort through millions of records in seconds. Sentinel also integrates with the Graph Security API to enable customers to import their own threat intelligence feeds as well. So with AI, security analysts, they face a huge burden of triage, right? As they not only have to sift through the high number of alerts that we talked about before, but typically also correlate alerts from different products manually. That's why Sentinel uses scalable machine learning algorithms to correlate millions of seemingly unimportant alerts to a few security incidents of high interest. I'm going to kind of show you what that GUI looks like as well, and I think it's kind of jaw-dropping. It's pretty interesting stuff. Sentinel also includes user behavior analytics to help you identify anomalies, compromised identities, things like malicious insider actions, things of that nature. Machine learning will help you quickly get value from the large amounts of security data you're currently ingesting and connect the dots for you. A great example would be, say, a compromised account leading to Office 365 mailbox exfiltrations. Microsoft is saying for the customers that are the early adopters of Azure Sentinel that they're seeing a reduction of up to 90% in alert fatigue. I think that's pretty amazing. I think that's worth a preview in and of itself, a pilot, if you will, of Azure Sentinel to let your teams kind of get their fingers into the cake mix here with Azure Sentinel and really see that reduction of, again, it's not reduction of alerts in the back end, it's that they're going to correlate all of those alerts into a fewer number of actual security incidents that would be of high interest to your team. The best part to me is you don't really need to be a data scientist to run a lot of the things that Microsoft offers in here. So there are machine learning models that are built in and they're built in by Microsoft, by the folks who actually run the security practice for Azure themselves. So they're seeing a lot of things all the time. They're taking those models and making them available within Azure Sentinel as well. So you can you don't have to be that data scientist. You can leverage what Microsoft already has available there. But it still gives you the flexibility to customize machine learning based analysis, and you can even bring your own machine learning models in Azure Sentinel. So to me, it's a tool that an organization can grow with, right? Depending on the strength of your security team, they can start leveraging the tools that Microsoft makes available for you. And as they become more competent within Azure Sentinel, they can start to expand and customize the machine learning algorithms, bring in their own machine learning models into Sentinel. So I think it's a great tool that an organization can grow with. This is a pretty eye-catchy slide here, if you will. I'm going to show this in a little bit more detail, hopefully, in the demo. But this is that simplified GUI that combines the graphical and AI-based investigation. It's going to reduce the time it takes to understand the full scope of an attack and its impact. You can visualize the attack and take quick actions in the same dashboard. So when your mouse actually hovers over these items in the map, you'll have different options available to you to continue to drill down and find the issue. Another critical task or should be another critical task of your security team should be to proactively hunt for suspicious activities. I can honestly say, having worked with a lot of organizations, large and small, I've not encountered many organizations where their security team has the time to really be proactive. Almost everything I've ever seen has been pretty much reactive because of those pain points that we discussed before. However, in most cases, the process by which your SecOps can collect and analyze the data is a repeatable process, right? There's a lot of things that can be repeated in here. And Azure Sentinel gives you the ability to automate resolutions around these repeatable items that might pop up. So Azure Sentinel provides two capabilities that allows you to automate your analysis. First, by building hunting queries that we'll show a little bit as well. And second, Azure Notebooks. So for those of you who are not familiar with Azure Notebooks, it's a free hosted service to develop and run Jupyter notebooks in the cloud. Based on the proactive hunting that Microsoft's own incident response and threat analyst teams perform, they have developed a set of queries and notebooks that are available today in Azure Sentinel as well to help your security team navigate the most common scenarios that they might come across. And as the threat landscape evolves, so will the queries and the Azure notebooks. All of those queries and notebooks that Microsoft will continue to develop and have developed already today are available to you in the Azure Sentinel GitHub community, which there is a link to if anybody needs. Certainly reach out and we can get that to you. A wealth of valuable information in there. Automated expert guidance with a feature called Virtual Analysts. So this Virtual Analyst is a feature that will be coming out in general availability as well. It automatically reasons over the alerts, provides a confidence score for their severity, and help get you a prioritized list of alerts. So while Azure Sentinel will be able to reduce the alert fatigue, right, to multiple, hopefully high important incidents, it's also going to provide a confidence score for their severity as well. So your team will have at least marching orders in terms of where to start and what to start digging through.
One thing real quick, Scott, I can't stress this enough, right? I think that little sentence, and I know it was sort of at the tail end of a lot of content. That little sentence towards the end there, I think sums up one of the biggest values of Azure Sentinel, right? As we have all of these sources, we're capturing all of these logs and trying to analyze them. It is impossible for a human being to search through them and prioritize them. It is simply not possible anymore. And so we do one of two things. We either ignore the warning signs, right? Or we sort of ramp down the details that are coming in or collect from fewer sources, right? As a result of that, we're not looking at the whole picture and we're potentially missing things. The Azure's ability to sort through the noise and bubble up using, very powerful artificial intelligence built on top of the Azure platform, right? To analyze these things and say, this is the stuff you should do something about, is without a doubt the big bang for Azure Sentinel. Go ahead, Scott.
Yep. Thanks, Bob. So we talked about the AI before, and I know I mentioned a little bit about the playbooks. I just want to dive into that a little bit more because AI sharpens your focus on finding the problems. Once you have solved the problem, you don't want to keep finding the same problems over and over. So Azure Sentinel provides the built-in automation with predefined or custom playbooks. Predefined ones are already built by Microsoft. You can create your own as well to help solve these repetitive tasks and respond to threats even quicker. A security playbook's essentially a collection of procedures that can run from Sentinel in response to an alert. Security playbook can be run manually or set to run automatically when specific alerts are triggered. The playbooks in Sentinel are based on Azure Logic apps, if you're familiar with those, which means that you get all the power, customizability, built-in templates that Logic Apps provides today. Because Sentinel's leveraging the power of Logic Apps, it's able to augment existing enterprise defense and investigation tools, including some of the best-of-breed security products out there, the homegrown tools that you may have, other systems like HR management applications and workflow management systems like ServiceNow. So a good example of something to automate, and I think it's will be part of the demo that we'll take a look at here in a little bit, is say you have an IP address in Palo Alto trying to connect to Azure AD, and you see this frequently. You can block the IP address, log a ticket in ServiceNow, host an alert message in Teams for maybe your SOC channel that you have in Teams, as well as generate an email to maybe a decision maker who can accept this process or deny it, right? And if he accepts it, then all of those things occur. The IP address continues to be blocked, or if you deny it, it won't block that IP address anymore and close the ticket in ServiceNow. So a lot of great things that you can plug into, right? Even into your homegrown applications that you might have on premise today. So next actions. As I said, it's in preview. It's in the Azure portal itself. You can go ahead and search in Sentinel. It'll pop up. You create your log analytics workspace, and you can start to make your connections. Certainly, we have a pilot available here at Planet Technologies as well, where we certainly can come out and provide some workshops to your security team that dive much deeper than what I'm doing today. And help set that up and start to dive through all of the data and set up some of the dashboards, which I'm going to kind of show a little bit because there's a lot of customization available. As I mentioned before, you can make it pretty much easy out of the box use as you want, but there's also a ton of customizations that can occur. Bob, I'm going to take a second and I could use your help. I'm going to try to switch over to the demo that I have. So
all right.
You may see a blank screen for a second.
No worries. While he's doing that, I'll just add that we're formalizing internally, along with the Microsoft product group, the ability to do, say, at no charge to you, one-day workshop kind of orient, where the front end may be a little more, a little higher level, and the second half of the day be a much deeper technical dive into what it would take or what you need to be thinking about to implement Azure Sentinel. So reach out to either the You Already Own It alias, your account rep, or the cloud strategist if you're interested.
Are you able to see it, Bob?
Modernizing your security operations. So yes, it looks like you can see.
There you go. So this is a much larger demo, has lots of screenshots and slides. I'm not going to go through the entire thing. I just wanted to kind of, wet your whistle on what it actually looks like. It's one thing to talk about it. It's certainly another thing to put your eyes on it and see what it actually looks like. So when you go into your Azure portal and you search up Sentinel and launch it, and you've created your workspace, and assuming that you've made some connections and started ingesting some logs, this is what your overview screen or your dashboard would look like. This is where you essentially have a bird's eye view of events and alerts aggregated from the enterprise and cloud over time. the number of events that have been collected, active cases, color-coded by status. I mean, you can see a whole lot of information here, but you can see it's very clean. Some of the things that we talked about in the presentation were the hunting, the proactive hunting queries that you can create, the notebooks, the playbooks for automation, where you can start configuring your data connectors. So you can see it's extremely clean. And I just want to dive in into a couple spots here. One, this is the data connections menu, so you can see kind of what's available here in the preview. You see pretty much all of the Microsoft built-in solutions. Azure AD Identity Protections there. You can see that it's connected in this demo. It's one of my favorite features within Azure Active Directory in terms of sign-in risk levels, user risk levels. It's just one of my favorite solutions that are out there. That's easy to set up and secure your environment. I believe we can scroll down here as well to show some. There's the third party down here at the bottom. You'll notice that there's a common event format too. We'll talk about that. I'll kind of click on that and show you what that looks like. But let's take a look at Azure Active Directory. So you have something connected. You can see that you're receiving data. You can see the last time log data was received. Some data points that are there, and you can certainly dive into these as well. I just wanted to kind of give you an idea of what this looks like and how clean it can be. If I scroll down here, you can see some of the third parties. I mentioned S5, Palo Alto, Checkpoint, Barracuda, even syslog, DNS, threat intelligence that you can customize or bring your own as well. Okay, let's take a look at the common event format. I'll click on that. You can see this is the industry standard, right, format that's on top of the syslog messages that you receive. You can configure this pretty much any way that you want to. What's the other one that I wanted to show here? Azure Activity. I think this is the one where we can start to dig down into what you actually see. General overview of the Azure Activity. You can see some of the activity types down here. Activity logs grouped by the status amounts, your time view as well. Basically want to get to one specific thing here pretty quickly. Here's a very good look at the Palo Alto. So just to go back, if I go to Azure Activity, click on Palo Alto network threats, you can see the different things that we have set up here. Gives you a nice clean dashboard. Again, any of these are filterable. You can see the little filter icon for each of these. This allows you to customize each and every dashboard essentially that's in here. Either the all-up bird's eye view dashboard as well as individual products. It's also important to understand on a technical note that you can customize dashboards based off of who is viewing it and what role that they have within the organization. So you may have networking people who only need to see the networking aspects of Azure Sentinel and be able to filter it down based off of that. We're going to take a look at what it's like to actually run a query against some of this data. So you'll notice that there's a query explorer up here. We can go ahead and open that up. There are solution queries that are pre-built by Microsoft, as I mentioned before. Your team can create their own queries as well. So if we go into, say, saved queries here, and I want to pick, let's do some security queries here. Here's a week over week security event query based off of some firewall events that are occurring. And you can kind of see the data that it provides there. But what I do want to show is what happens when we drill down into that and take a look at what an attack might look like. So once you get the data, you can go ahead and you have the ability to change the views, change the charts that are available that you can use and look at it, whatever your preference is, bar charts, pie charts. So it gives you that flexibility built in. Now we're going to take a look at something else. Here we're looking at sign-in logs, a simple summarized count by the time generated for the last by hour. And you'll notice that Azure Sentinel has identified some anomalies within this, and you can kind of take a look at this and you see the spikes that you might want to dive down into. This isn't the example that we're going to dive down into an actual attack, but those are the first couple steps that you're going to take. Now, if we come in and take a look at some of the alerts that are available here, we'll see that there is an anomalous login that we want to take a look at, right? Here's the anomalous login. Here's the user and the actual device that the login occurred in. And we can go ahead and take a deeper dive into the user. And this is what I mentioned before during the slides. It's going to give you some options that you can take a look at. Related alerts for this user, 5 top hosts logged on by this user, all the hosts logged on by this user. There are some more options. So because this is a login, let's take a look at some of the hosts perhaps that they've been logging into. And you can see all of those devices that user's been logging into. We can also take a look at that as part of this alert. What is that device? And let's take a little bit deeper of a look into that. And now all of a sudden we're starting to see some other issues that have been identified, such as a suspicious PowerShell script or activity that's been detected. So you can see, I just wanted you to get an idea of how this kind of is so easy to navigate and really give you some ability to keeping in mind that a lot of this information is pulled by disparate logs from different solutions. It could be Azure ATP, it could be Azure AIP, Azure Identity Protection. It could come from a host of things, Defender ADP, right? Anything that you want to collect from, and Azure Sentinel is going to be able to span across all of those logs that are available and start correlate these types of reports and allow you to investigate proactively and dig through. Bob, that pretty much finishes up my demo in here. There's a lot more in here, and I'm more than happy to go through this entire thing with anybody that would like to do so, because there's a ton of information. This demo itself goes through all the playbooks as well, and some of the analytics options that are available to you. It goes deeper into the hunting capabilities, as well as the ability to create your own notebooks and playbooks as well. But I did want to keep this at a pretty high level so everybody just kind of understands what it is. And are you and your organization at a point where, hey, you know what, looking at a new SIEM or SOAR product based off of cost or based off of abilities that your current solutions are providing your organizations today, maybe this is a great time to really take a look at this, a great time to stand up a pilot since it is free of charge until general availability. As most organizations are on Office 365 in some shape or form, it's a really great pilot to just go ahead and start taking a look at that data, or perhaps any third-party products you're running within your Azure environment today as well from a network or security standpoint. So I'm going to leave it at that now, but please feel free to reach out to me or to Bob or to the You Already Own It email address that Bob mentioned before, and we'll more than happy to start a conversation with you.
Yep, leave this screen up for a second because I think I just want to wind the call down with, I'm the why do I care about this guy, right? That's sort of where I drive through a lot of the conversations with customers. And I think this dashboard right here kind of sums up a lot of what we talked about for the last 40 minutes or so into one picture, right? So there are tens of thousands of pieces of data to make this demo, right? Where we gathered from various information over time, et cetera. But what it bubbled it up to was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 things you care about, right? And, there's some yellow warnings, a couple of red ones. Now, there was a lot of detail when Scott clicked in and took a look at these things, but we didn't have to look through that data to decide, hey, there was a compromised account in Office 365, like the example we used. Azure Sentinel said, there's a compromised account in Office 365. If you want to know how we figured that out, right, then click on this link and we'll give you all the details. Now, the powerful thing is either, through yourself going through and creating some of these sort of actions to take, or through, leveraging someone like Planet to sort of get you out of the gate going on this. But the idea here is that based on the things that have been bubbled up into this environment across on-premises, Azure, Office 365, third-party applications, all of those things, right? We've been able to figure out something bad has happened, and we'll take action on your behalf, whether you want to, go through some workflow steps to approve it just by notifying you, or because it's of a certain level of severity or type, we're just going to take the action, right? But the reality is we didn't have to look through all of those things and say, I think something's going on. The artificial intelligence bubbled everything up and said, this is a problem. Here are the correlations we made to determine it's a problem. And here's the action that that you've predetermined we take when these kinds of things happen. And that, in a nutshell, sums things up, to say, this is, this is what the power of this tool is sorting through the millions of pieces of information, bubbling up to things that need to take action, taking action automatically when warranted, or at least notifying you that you should be looking into things. And oh, by the way, here is the correlating data so that you can make your own decisions. If you seem to not agree with the decision that we made as well. So with that, I'm going to wrap up for today. I want to thank everyone for joining. This is a really exciting new capability from the Microsoft Cloud Platform, and I'm excited we were able to get this out to our customers. And with that, I will say goodbye. But before we go ahead and hang up, are there any questions from the audience that you guys haven't asked or you want to ask before we go? Going once, going twice. Okay, well, if you're shy, go ahead.
What's the approximate anticipated cost after the trial?
So that's a fantastic question, right? So some of those details are not fully vetted yet, but a lot of them are going to be involved in the amount of storage that you generate to store the logs. So depending on the number of things you connect to, a big part of it will be how much log data you're ingesting and how long you're keeping it to monitor it over time. I don't know, Jeff, do you have any more details on pricing? Yep. Jeff has.
Yep. Happy to help.
Yep. So what I'll do here, there are some pricing details. I am pulling it up now. I'm going to paste it. What's available today? I'm going to paste it into the Teams window right now for all that's there for what is actually available today. And obviously we're happy to help customers who, if it's too complicated to figure out on your own, we'll help customers go through and evaluate what the total cost will be. The reality is, like I said, a lot of it's going to be involved in how much data you're ingesting. If you're bringing in all your on-premise data and shipping up logs from other theme systems and all of that kind of stuff, that obviously will drive the cost up slightly higher. But fortunately, right, the cost of storage in Azure is fairly cheap on that, and then there's some other factors that go in as well.
Yeah, and just to add to that, this is in preview right now. They haven't quite finalized the pricing, obviously, but one important thing to note is that the data import from Office 365 is free. So that is a huge advantage for existing Office 365 customers to leverage this service in Azure to their extreme advantage. So definitely take advantage of it and go play in the preview as much as you can.
Any other questions? All right, with that, we'll call it a wrap. We'll see you guys next month. Thanks a lot.